In mixed martial arts, the relationship between fighters and promoters is complicated.
He's a big mouth idiot.
He is a lying, two-faced, hypocritical sack of
I don't care about mixed martial arts. These jerk-offs are in it for the money.
Most of the time, disagreements stay behind closed doors, but every now and then, they don't. Today, we're looking at 5 moments when tensions between Dana White and some of his fighters spilled into the public eye. Situations shaped by emotion, negotiation, and the pressure of running the biggest fight promotion in the world. These aren't just stories of conflict, they're snapshots of what happens when the business of fighting becomes deeply personal. Cris Cyborg has been one of the most dominant forces in women's MMA, but her relationship with Dana White has been rocky from the beginning. Back in 2014, Dana White made headlines when he joked that Cyborg looked like Wanderlei Silva in a dress and heels.
I said when I saw her at the MMA awards, she looked like Wanderlei Silva in a dress and heels. And she did.
Comments like that cut deeper than the usual fight promotion, and Cyborg never forgot them. Years later, after her win over Felicia Spencer at UFC 240, Cyborg and Dana had a backstage conversation about a potential Amanda Nunes rematch. Her team posted a video of that exchange, but the subtitles were edited in a way that appeared to twist Dana's words. When the full audio surfaced, the edit was exposed. Cyborg apologized publicly, saying her production team altered the footage without her approval. But by then, the relationship had already fractured. Dana soon announced the UFC was out of the Cyborg business, ending one of the most turbulent chapters between a champion and the promotion.
Yeah, I got an apology from her. She did everything she could, including doctoring a video, lying about what I said to avoid fighting Amanda Nunes. I don't think there's any peace between me and Cyborg. She's unhappy, we're unhappy. She lies and does that thing.
Few fighters have clashed with Dana White as consistently as Tito Ortiz. The tension goes all the way back to the early days of modern UFC, fueled by contract disputes, personal jabs, and power struggles. At one point it escalated so far that Dana White, the president of the UFC, agreed to box Tito in a televised exhibition match. Training footage was filmed, contracts were drafted, it was set to happen, but just days before the fight Tito pulled out, claiming the financial terms were unacceptable. Dana took it personally, and the back and forth that followed lasted for years. Insults flew publicly, negotiations stalled repeatedly, and it became one of the most famous promoter-fighter feuds in UFC history. It wasn't just business disagreements, it was two strong personalities colliding again and again. Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson is widely considered one of the greatest fighters ever. But behind the scenes, his relationship with Dana White grew strained.
He wasn't very confident in his abilities to sell pay-per-views. He has the lowest selling pay-per-view in the history of the UFC in the modern era.
Especially around matchmaking and division politics. The biggest clash came when DJ resisted a proposed fight with TJ Dillashaw. According to DJ, he was pressured to accept, called a dumbass over the phone, and told the UFC might shut down the entire flyweight division if he didn't cooperate. Johnson responded with a public statement, describing what he felt was bullying and disrespect from the promotion. Dana pushed back through the media, defending the UFC and challenging DJ's version of events. For a champion who defended his belt a record 11 times, it was one of the rare situations where personal frustration overshadowed competitive greatness. One of the most surprising public disagreements came after GSP's controversial win over Johnny Hendricks at UFC 167. Exhausted, concussed, and dealing with personal issues, GSP announced in the cage that he needed time away from the sport. He didn't say he was retiring, just that he needed a break.
Are you retiring right now? Is that what you're saying? I have to go away for a little bit at least.
Dana White reacted immediately and emotionally. At the post-fight press conference, he criticized the decision, argued the rematch should happen right away, and said GSP owed it to the fans and the division.
You don't just say, hey, I'm going to take a while off, and maybe I'll be back, maybe I won't. You owe it to the fans, you owe it to that belt, you owe it to this company, and you owe it to Johnny Hendricks.
The backlash was intense, enough that Dana later called GSP to apologize for how strongly he reacted. But by then, George had stepped away. A break that may have lasted months stretched into nearly 4 years. This was a moment where the pressure of running the sport collided with a fighter's personal limits, and the fallout changed welterweight history. Matt Riddle is one of the clearest examples of what happens when Dana takes someone's words personally.
Now, the reason he's not in the UFC anymore is because he could not pass a drug test. The guy couldn't pass a drug test. Think about this. You have to go to work 3 times a year, and you couldn't pass a drug test? You're so weak-minded and so addicted to marijuana that you couldn't stay off it enough to pass a drug test 3 times a year. Well, guess what, dummy? They drug test in the real world, too.
Riddle failed multiple drug tests for marijuana and was cut from the UFC in 2013. But it's what he said and what Dana said back that made this feud stand out. Riddle did an interview where he joked that he smokes weed so he doesn't beat his children. Dana hears that, sees another failed test and absolutely unloads in the media, calling him an effing moron and repeating that line about the kids as proof.
Matt Riddle, who did an interview and said, I smoke marijuana so I don't beat my wife and children.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Riddle fires back in his own way, later calling Dana heartless and creating this lasting bad blood between them.
He is an asshole. He was really cold-blooded towards me, you know.
Riddle eventually reinvents himself in pro wrestling and finds success outside the UFC, but that door with Dana looks permanently closed. On paper it's about drug tests. In reality, this felt like a grudge, both men using the media to take shots at each other. Cris Cyborg, Tito Ortiz, Demetrious Johnson, George St-Pierre and Matt Riddle. 5 fighters, 5 stories, each with its own reasons, pressures and perspectives. These moments remind us that the UFC isn't just about what happens in the cage. It's also about negotiations, personalities, expectations, and sometimes emotion. Not every situation was right or wrong. Some were misunderstandings, some were business, some were personal. But each one shaped careers, changed divisions, and showed fans just how complex the world of MMA can be behind the scenes.